Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I know it's the last panel of the day, so we're going to keep it quick and punchy and not get in the way of getting to drinks. I'm Purvi Maniar, Chief Legal Officer at Laser Digital, and I'll let my co-panelists introduce themselves.
Hi, good afternoon. Michael Ashby, CEO of AlqoQuant.
I'm Avi Felman, been in crypto for about 8 years, formerly the PM of a fund called Block Tower, and then the crypto arm of Golden Tree, and now trade my own capital at Radhan Road.
Sharif-Askary. I had research and product at Grayscale. Is this working now?
Well, thank you. And I want to thank the TIE for having us here today and for putting on all the great content that we've heard today. We're going to close out the day with talking a little bit about narratives in crypto. I'm sure you've heard threads of it throughout the day today. And I think over the last 2 years, we've seen a lot of change with respect to who is actually driving that narrative. Let's start there. I'll open it up. Maybe we just go down the line. Where do you think that narratives are being shaped today?
I think it's been an interesting year, right? Meme coins and now DATs. So I think it's quite disparate. I guess for context, we run a mid-frequency multi-strat fund. We have about 29 PMs across the book, and it's for them to find alpha signals has become a very different business this year. And so I don't think it's one place at all. I think you now have narratives that are being created in DeFi, and TradFi, and CeFi.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that, is that the world has become splintered in terms of information in crypto, and it really kind of always has been splintered, but previously I think there was one or two major sources of information that you would derive from. So like if you go back to 2017, I think the vast majority of stuff that was happening in crypto was happening on like the Bitcoin Talk forum, or it was happening on crypto Twitter. And then you move forward a little bit, and crypto Twitter sort of takes the steam from Bitcoin Talk, and everything that is worth looking at, and if you want to make money in the space, is happening on crypto Twitter. And then in DeFi summer in around 2020, it starts to change again, and people start making these Discord chats. I think Telegram really starts to pop off, and information sort of moves there, but crypto Twitter is still big. And at that time, I mean, people weren't really taking crypto that seriously, so there weren't a lot of people out there writing research reports or going deep. I mean, it was all the information was being shared sort of informally between people. There were obviously a few shops writing research, and then I think over the last 2-3 years, what's really happened is that as the space is professionalized, you're getting the best information from people. I'm not saying this just because they're a sponsor, but like people like the TIE that are writing research reports, people like Masari, people like Galaxy, Grayscale writes research, right? They're all, these places are becoming a lot more important in crafting the narrative moving forward, as I think the space has become more real and less dependent on what anonymous people say on Discord, which at the time was very valuable and now is less so.
I think my panelists covered it really well, and then the other only thing I'd add is that it's places like this, right? It's the narratives we tell ourselves, it's what we like, it's what we tell each other, and I think we're going to talk about this, but sometimes I also think it's important to step back because it can still be a bit echo chambery.
Absolutely. And I know we spoke about this a little bit in the prep, but Avi, is crypto Twitter dead?
I think it's actually coming back a little bit. So, and this is a really good thing. I think if you've been in crypto, like if you've been trying to invest and if you've been trying to trade over the last 3 years, you've seen a few cycles come and go that have been absurd, such as the NFT boom, right? People made so much money trading NFTs, buying NFTs, selling NFTs, and basically all of that was happening on Discord, with some of that happening on crypto Twitter. And then you saw the rise of meme coin mania. And again, this is all, like a lot of this is happening on TikTok. Like a lot of this is happening on these random places on the internet. I think 2 years ago or a year and was it earlier this year? Oh my God, the meme coin mania. It's like time flies. But there was a period of time where like if a meme went viral on TikTok, that was the thing that you were supposed to, that was like could hit 5 billion in 2 days, and everyone was losing their minds because nobody here presumably was on TikTok 24/7, and I think that has sort of died down a lot, because I think people have realized, okay, that was a mania, that was crazy, that was insane, and I actually do believe that this most recent mania of a meme of a squirrel going to 2 billion was probably the last of something like that in the world of crypto, like a join to crypto specifically. Now we're in a place where real research is coming back, and people are looking for actual real information, and hopefully that persists. And I think as part of that, we're going to move away from the TikToks of the world. We're going to move away from the Discords of the world. We're going to come back to the long threads on crypto Twitter and paywalled research reports, unfortunately.
Anything else to add there?
I guess something else we were talking about. I think one of the narratives is going to be utility. So I think we actually have to move to a market that these things make sense, whether they be, building enterprise value, cash positive, or actually just doing something useful for the world, right? The days, to your point, of this meme sort of nonsense, I think are gone. So from our perspective, we were founded by one of the larger Bitcoin mining CEOs, and we have a lot of Bitcoin wealth. We do see that there's appetite for folks to put that to work. And so we're launching a fixed income business to do that in the coming years. But beyond that, I think you're seeing the Canton Network and a lot of these new projects come in with actual real plans. And I'd actually love to hear your guys' thoughts on the DATs, because I think there's a lot of hype, and now they have to do something with it. So I'm curious to get that conversation going.
I do want to just pull out one thing there, because you mentioned Canton, and I think Canton's like a perfect example of how we've progressed. I mean, if you go look on Twitter, I think they have something like 80,000 followers, and they get like they get okay engagement. It's not like out of this world engagement, but the engagement in the real world, talking to real partners and making deals and getting their chain set up, has been astronomical compared to what their perceived success, if you were just looking at their Twitter, was. And I think that tells you everything that's happening. Whereas 3 years ago, if you weren't big there, if you weren't big on Twitter, you weren't anything. You were nothing. There was nothing you could do.
Well, they're big here. They're the big sponsor, right? That's all
exactly. That's,
I think it's part of a broader theme too. And I know we have 15 minutes, so we're just going to jump around a little bit. But going into 2026, I think what you're seeing, what you mentioned with Canton, is sort of a merging of these worlds, right? You have crypto natives partnering with legacy financial infrastructure, and everything's kind of coming together in that sense. And so the conversation necessarily takes place in arenas outside of crypto Twitter.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point, and I think to maybe pull on that thread a little bit, what narrative shocked you this year? I think there was a lot in the news about, the U.S. regulatory moves, market structure, clarity, uppercase C, lowercase c, clarity on that front. What shocked you this year as a narrative?
I don't think I've been in this space since 2018. I went to Singapore and people were dressed up as dinosaurs, and I don't, in consensus back then, I don't think anything can shock me now. I really don't.
I was heartened tremendously to see the progress that we've made this year. I mean, it's like everything that we could have ever possibly asked for as people that like this space and think that it should succeed is clarity around how stablecoins should be treated. And more importantly for me, I think the stablecoin thing is, it's obviously important and it's big, but more fun for me to see was the now growing acceptance of crypto protocols as real companies and how they can actually treat their cash flows, like what we just saw yesterday with Uniswap finally turning on after many years of consternation. Uniswap is very conservative. They've always been very conservative when it comes to their status as maybe a security, not a security. They've tried to do everything the right way, and they're finally saying, hey guys, we might be able to return capital to you, and we're going to push forward on this. And this, I really don't think it should be understated. This is huge, and you're going to see this happen for a lot of crypto protocols coming out in the future. For the longest time, you could make the argument all of these crypto tokens are the same. They don't derive any value from anything. It's all speculative. So even though Aave and Uniswap and Aerodrome and Morpho and these things have businesses and they're making cash flow, it doesn't matter. The token's still a meme because there's nothing to tie them together. So I might as well buy the Squirrel coin. Doesn't matter. Like, they're all the same. That's changing, and I think that should inform everyone's investment decisions, not financial advice.
Yeah, I guess for me it was hyper-liquid. I didn't see that coming. I thought that what they're doing is very similar, right? They're a community-based project, and people seem to really get behind it. I think we need some good actors, and I think they're positioning themselves as such.
Do you think that stablecoins see that same either convergence or divergence of narratives? I mean, there have been many, many companies that have been formed even since we've been seeing greater institutional adoption on that front. And then obviously there are the legacy companies that have existed. Who's driving that narrative today? And is there room for new voices?
My favorite part of the stablecoin narrative, because it's true, it's bridging, it's an on-ramp and an off-ramp. You have institutions getting involved. I think for me and for us, we did a research piece on this. You guys should check it out. What's exciting is that we talk about stablecoins a lot, but what people talk about less from a narrative perspective is what it means for the underlying chains in value accrual to the underlying chains, like the Ethereum, Solana, Swiss of the world, as it relates to all this increased stablecoin activity.
Yeah, I think that's the part that I 100% agree with. It's really, I think people are sort of missing the forest for the trees here, in that all of the advancement in the stablecoin world is really great, and I'm really happy that we have the regulations, but these companies that are coming out that are purporting to be, oh, like we're ushering in a new era of stablecoins, these are neobanks. These are the same as a SoFi, it's the same as a Revolut. They're building effectively the same product, just on a different rail. And so the thing that is new here is the underlying chain getting revenue and usage through the increased adoption of stablecoins. But each one of the companies that is actively trying to go build on top of the stablecoin rails, they're just building another neobank, right? And so I think you have to treat it like that. You have to say, okay, so they have, because they're using stablecoins, they have these advantages over the incumbents. But it's the same way that when you were looking at Robinhood versus, any old brokerage account back when Robinhood was $7 a share, you're like, okay, well, what are the advantages that Robinhood has over it? It's the same sort of comparison, right? They're not going to be successful just specifically because they're using stablecoins. Personal opinion.
Do you think staking sees the same?
I think staking has changed a lot in like the last 3 weeks. For me, we've been talking about this for a while. Crypto is now an income generating asset class. And that really, when we're talking to our investors, the idea that they are getting a unique revenue stream in addition to having the technology upside, potential store of value, diversification benefits is huge. And so we've worked very hard to deliver that value back to investors. And we have now, through the generic listing standards, which we can talk more about, with a huge deal, now ETFs can stake. And so 2 weeks ago, we actually turned on staking for our Solana ETF. We're staking in our Ethereum ETFs. And for Solana now, we are 100% staked, and we're returning investors over 7% staking reward, which has been very meaningful. So I think that the game has completely changed with respect to staking and what it means with respect to unique products and revenue streams for crypto investors.
That's awesome. I hope to see a lot more Grayscale ads in like the airport saying we're offering staking now, because we need to get the word out there. I think people people need to start paying attention. Kind of reminds me of what happened with the title of this panel is The Power of Narratives in Crypto, right? And how they come to be. And it really does sometimes just take a few people being very loud about something to bring something into existence. I mean, great example of this is Zcash recently. Zcash's tech upgrade that coincided with the rise up had been known for like a year. This was all a known quantity. The ability of Zcash to be a good provider of privacy has been known for a very long time. What changed? People started tweeting about it, and people just noticed. Oh my God, that is valuable. Oh man, okay, that actually is pretty interesting. It's like I was telling my friend. It's like if you walk down the street, you walk down the same street 100 times, and you notice this building once on one of your walks. It's really beautiful, but you've passed it 100 times. You never thought about it before. Every walk after that, you're going to notice it again. You're going to be like, okay, that's a nice building. Same thing. That's what happens in crypto, right? In the beginning, people don't realize that something has value. They ignore it 100 times, but then once they actually are like, okay, this thing has value, it tends to not go away. And DeFi is a great example of this. I think Zcash privacy, hopefully the staking ETFs as well.
So I think on that thread around, legislation, what it can mean, any kind of regulatory clarity, honestly, there's a lot of talk about market structure legislation again in the US. And if the government reopens, that might be what we see next. So from that perspective, there's a lot of expectation around what that's going to mean for crypto in the US. What are your kind of top 2 or 3 changes that you see occurring or impacts from that, if it pans out?
I think one's, tokenization actually starts in earnest. Everybody's tokenizing supply. There's no demand function. And I do think we see that really pick up in the next 12 to 18 months. I think there's another part to this, which I think we do see retroactive regulation come in and more scrutiny on some of the projects. Because I think it's a double-edged sword. And we talk about the positive. I think people need to clean up their act a little bit. And I think folks like Grayscale have an institutional product. It's not the case across it. So I think there is going to be a little bit of more scrutiny as we go into the next couple of years.
I'm mostly excited specifically for this ability for crypto projects to just bring back cash towards their token holders. That's the final step, in my opinion. It is the merging of crypto into TradFi 100%, where we now just accept that every application that is built in crypto is simply a company that is providing a service that happens to be using better technology. And that's what we've been working for a long time, and I think that's coming.
I think you guys about covered it.
I guess maybe along those lines as well, do we think that narrative has played out for DATs?
I'm not a fan of DATs personally. I don't know. I don't know what you. I mean, I can maybe guess what you think over at Grayscale. What's your take?
Look, I think that we haven't done anything with DATs yet. It's something that I've looked at. I think it can be interesting. I think that at the end of the day, we have financial products that start as private placements. They trade OTC. Sometimes they trade at discounts and premiums. And ultimately, the goal is to turn them into ETFs, which have creation and redemption mechanisms that bring pricing to NAV. I think there are a lot of DATs out there. I think some of them are doing interesting things, but ultimately, it's unclear how that turns out longer term.
I guess I'd say there's a place for them, but they're not yet there. So I think part of the regulation they need to clean up, and they need to actual utility function. And so I'm keen to see who actually discovers that utility function. And if they have interesting operating businesses that have positive cash flow, then they can start accumulating the underlying treasury. I think that's a utility function, and we're not just seeing that yet. But
yeah, I think that cash flow point. Like when I think about DATs, I think, well, what gives them the premium? Like, why does a DAT have a premium in the first place? It's because they think retail presumably thinks that they can accumulate more of that asset that they're holding over time. Otherwise, it would just straight up track the value of the underlying asset. So the question is, how do you accumulate more of the asset over time? You need some form of cash flow. MicroStrategy has solved that by selling a ton of different financial products. Michael Saylor is a genius when it comes to financial engineering, and he knows exactly what the street wants to buy, so he can issue all sorts of convertible debt. He can issue a Bitcoin savings account, and people are buying it, and that's his cash flow. I don't think the other DATs currently have figured out how we're going to buy more of this underlying asset. They're just stuck at retail will pay for this at above NAV on the market right now because they think that we might be able to buy more in the future, and they really need to solve that cash flow piece. Until then, I remain out.
So we have 30 seconds left. We'll do a quick lightning round question. 2026 prediction, narrative that dominates.
I think this is going to be my hot take. I think 2026 is going to be the year we transcend the story that we continue to tell ourselves around the 4-year cycle. We have a lot of, promising regulatory backdrop. The economy is fine. Adoption is very real. I think it's time maybe it's the year that we transcend that.
Yeah, short everything with VC unlocks and buy everything that makes cash.
I'll just say utility. I think it's the year of utility.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today, and thank you to the TIE for hosting.
Thank you.